Chapter 316. A light and airy feeling washed over him as the beautiful woman Yunli's slender fingers seemed to possess some kind of magical power. Wherever they passed, Yang Kai's physical and mental fatigue would be dispelled, causing him to involuntarily relax and feel extremely comfortable. The land of warmth and gentleness was the tomb of heroes. This saying was not false at all. Yang Kai also calmly closed his eyes and enjoyed this intoxicating feeling. He wasn't a hypocritical person. Shanqing Luo had sent Yunli, Ruoyu, and Ruoqing to serve him, clearly wanting to satisfy any of his requests. How could Yang Kai not know that as long as he wanted to, he could do whatever he wanted with these three women? Of these three women, one was mature and voluptuous, one was gentle and quiet, and one was elegant and dignified. Each of them had their own unique charms, but all of them were equally attractive to men. Now that this beautiful woman had taken the initiative to serve him, Yang Kai naturally didn't refuse. If he did, it would appear as if he had a guilty conscience. The room fell silent for a time. Yang Kai didn't speak, and the beautiful woman Yunli also remained silent, only concentrating on kneading his chest. As time passed, Yang Kai clearly noticed that the breathing of the beautiful woman half kneeling behind him had become slightly heavier, and even her body temperature had gradually risen. Her breathing was like an orchid, and her heartbeat had also become faster and faster. Yang Kai didn't know if it was intentional or not, but during the process of kneading, her full and supple chest rubbed against his back from time to time, as if they were close, yet also apart. Her two cherry-like peaks rubbed against his spine, giving him a burst of sharp sensation. Yang Kai's expression couldn't help becoming slightly strange. Could this beautiful woman Yunli really be like Bai Luo had said? She had been lonely for a long time, and now she was acting like a wolf or a tiger. Otherwise, how could she be making such a big commotion? The strange reaction of this beautiful woman also caused Yang Kai to become somewhat restless. Yunli wasn't very old, at most 25 years old. Although she wasn't at the prime of her life, she was still at the peak of her youth. Most importantly, she was far more mature than most young girls, both physically and psychologically. If something really did happen between them, she wouldn't be so entangled. This woman had already been married 10 years ago, but her husband had died within a month, so she had been a widow for 10 years. 10 years ago, she was only 15 years old. After tasting that wonderful feeling, she hadn't continued for a long time. Perhaps she was really moved. He seemed to have noticed Yang Kai's reaction. Yunli smiled. Taking the initiative to distance herself from Yang Kai, she softly said, "Young lord, Lady Bai Luo should be here soon." He knew that she was reminding him. Yang Kai just nodded and said no more. The beautiful woman looked at Yang Kai in surprise. She didn't expect him to be so easy to talk to. He couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed. A moment later, the sound of Bai Luo grinding her teeth and cursing filled the air. It seemed that she had just been at a critical juncture in her cultivation when she was disturbed by Ruoyu and Ruoqing. However, since Shanqing Luo had given her orders, she had no choice but to hurry over. Yang Kai. Arriving at the bottom of the loft, Bai Luo placed her hands on her waist and raised her chin as she called out. Yang Kai stood up. Walking over to the window, he directly jumped down and landed in front of her. A woman should act like a woman. Why are you acting so fierce? Yang Kai frowned. None of your business. Bai Luo ground her teeth as she glared at Yang Kai, angrily saying, "Don't think that just because you tried to please me last time I don't hate you anymore. Let me tell you, if it weren't for Master's orders, this lady wouldn't have bothered with you. Then give me back my things." Yang Kai stretched out his hand in a serious manner. "What things?" Bai Luo asked curiously. "That pair of earrings." Bai Luo quickly stepped back and stared at Yang Kai incredulously, a bitter expression appearing on her face as she asked, "Are you serious? There's no use in me trying to please you. Why should I try to please you? Give me back my things." Yang Kai said coldly, Hey, are you still a man or not?" Bai Luo suddenly became dumbfounded and sarcastically said, "Things that have been given out are like spilled water, how can you ask for them back? Aren't you being too petty?" "That's because you're ignorant." Yang Kai sneered, Who said that things that have been given out can't be asked for back? I said so. Bai Luo stubbornly refused. I won't give them back. I won't give them back to you even if you kill me. You gave it to me yourself that day. Since it's in my hands, it's mine. Are you going to give them back or not? Nope. Good. Yang Kai nodded and strode out. Where are you going? Bai Luo sensed something was wrong and quickly stepped in front of him. I'm going to tell your master that you stole an artifact from her treasure house. Yang Kai stared at her provocatively and sneered. Bai Luo staggered back a few steps, her finger trembling as she pointed towards Yang Kai, her face flushed red. How can you be so shameless? That was clearly something you took out from her treasure house and threw to me. That day you said? That day I didn't say anything. Yang Kai's mouth curled into a smug smile. Little girl, you're still too inexperienced. Do you really think this young master would be so kind as to give you something? And that day, besides those 2 bottles of pills, I didn't take anything else. Yang Kai calmly added. Don't be so unreasonable. Bai Luo was completely dispirited. She finally understood what it meant to eat someone's mouth was short and her hands were soft. Although she couldn't wait to tear Yang Kai into 10,000 pieces, she still put on a pitiful expression on her face. Looking towards Yang Kai with an aggrieved expression, Bai Luo sobbed, You're not such a person, right? My attitude before was bad and I apologize to you. Do you really have the heart to see me being misunderstood by my master and then punished? Bai Luo stared at him pitifully. The more she spoke, the more her eyes became red, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Yang Kai didn't buy this at all and coldly said, Sorry, I'm such a shameless and heartless person and I'm also particularly vengeful, so provoking me is definitely not a wise choice. I'll remember you. Bai Luo saw that her soft approach didn't work, so she didn't bother to put on a pitiful appearance and bitterly grit her teeth. What do you want? Nothing, I'm just bored so I'm going to find your master and have a chat. Bai Luo's yuan qi fiercely surged as she glared towards Yang Kai, seemingly unable to restrain herself from teaching him a lesson. Yang Kai stared back at her indifferently, grinning meaningfully. Bai Luo's yuan qi 7-stage cultivation wasn't worthy of his attention. If she dared to attack him here, Yang Kai could use this as an excuse to cause a ruckus with Shanqing Luo, completely freeing himself from this dragon lady's shackles. The two of them stared at each other for a moment before Bai Luo's imposing manner suddenly collapsed and she weakly said, State your conditions, this lady accepts. Since childhood, this was the first time she had ever received a gift, and now it had become a fatal hindrance. In the future, even if she was beaten to death, she would never accept another gift, especially from a man. Bai Luo felt like her young heart had been deeply hurt, completely shrouded in a lingering shadow. Either show me some respect, or return my gift. Yang Kai stared at her calmly. I know. Bai Luo weakly responded, What else? I'm going out for a stroll, you come with me. That's a good boy. Yang Kai proudly laughed and walked out. Even after the two left, the beautiful woman Yun Li, as well as Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing, who had just arrived, were still staring at the backs of the two in amazement. Bai Luo, did she just admit defeat? In Fragrant City, Bai Luo had always been fearless. With the exception of Shanqing Luo, no one had ever been able to make her so obedient. But now Yang Kai, this man of unknown origin, had actually made her admit defeat? The beautiful woman and her two maidservants both couldn't help feeling a sense of disbelief, not knowing what to say. Right, did Shanqing Luo tell you that if I want to buy something, she has to pay for it? Walking out of the palace and onto the main street, Yang Kai suddenly asked. Bai Luo nodded lightly. Suddenly remembering something, she angrily shouted, Is master's name something you can call her by? Before she could finish her words, Yang Kai knocked her back. In front of your master, I dare call her that, and she doesn't object. You're just a little girl, so why are you being so long-winded? Bai Luo snarled, I'm warning you, don't go too far. Yang Kai ignored her and continued walking forward. Behind him, the sound of grinding teeth could be heard, and Yang Kai clearly felt a pair of resentful eyes bite into his back. After wandering around the city for a while, the pair came to a medicine shop. This medicine shop was opened by one of Fragrance City's relatively powerful forces. As soon as the two of them stepped inside, the shopkeeper of this medicine shop stumbled out from behind the counter and hurriedly bowed to Bai Luo, his forehead dripping with cold sweat. "Lady Bai Luo, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive us for not coming out to meet you." As soon as the shopkeeper called out, all the shop assistants in the medicine shop immediately scrambled to their feet while the other guests also fled as if they were avoiding snakes or scorpions. In the blink of an eye, only the shopkeeper remained in the medicine shop. Yang Kai stared blankly at all this, realizing that Bai Luo's reputation in Fragrance City wasn't very good. Bai Luo responded in a lukewarm manner. "Lady Bai Luo, what do you want to buy today?" The shopkeeper wiped the sweat from his forehead and asked cautiously. "I don't want to buy anything, he does. This one here is the master. You take care of him." Bai Luo pointed to Yang Kai snappily. The shopkeeper didn't quite understand, glancing back and forth between Yang Kai and Bai Luo suspiciously. "Do you have any pills that can nourish one's soul and restore one's soul?" Yang Kai asked directly. "Yes." The shopkeeper nodded repeatedly. "Soul-nourishing pill, soul-restoring pill, soul-restoring pill, these are all things this honored guest needs. Which one do you want?" "How many do we have?" Yang Kai asked. "There aren't many of these kinds of pills, each one only has 3 or 4 bottles. Only the soul-restoring pill has 5 bottles. I'll take all of them." Yang Kai waved his hand and said generously. In any case, with Shanqing Luo acting as a spendthrift, it would be a waste not to buy them. Besides, Shanqing Luo was the great evil queen of this generation, so this kind of money was nothing to her. Chapter 317. All of them? The shopkeeper looked dumbfounded, and even Bai Luo looked at Yang Kai suspiciously. "What do you want these things for? You haven't even reached the immortal ascension boundary yet. Don't meddle in things you shouldn't meddle in." Yang Kai replied faintly. "Sister Bai Luo, this." The shopkeeper turned to ask for instructions. "Didn't you hear? This young master said he wants them all, so take them all out. Just pack them up and send them to Master's palace, you won't be short on money." Bai Luo had just suffered at the hands of Yang Kai, so in the blink of an eye, she had taken it all out on the shopkeeper. Yes. The shopkeeper nodded. Although Bai Luo's temper wasn't good, when doing business with her she would never bully others, so the shopkeeper wasn't worried about her reneging on her debt. However, who was this boy? Bai Luo seemed to hold a great deal of resentment towards him. The shopkeeper's heart pounded, but he didn't dare neglect, quickly packing up all the pills Yang Kai wanted and ordering one of the shop assistants to deliver them to the palace. When the shop assistant walked past Bai Luo, he kept his head down, his eyes staring straight at his toes, not daring to look at Bai Luo at all. After leaving the medicine shop, Yang Kai intentionally or unintentionally glanced over at Bai Luo. "Many men in the city seem to be afraid of you." Bai Luo said valiantly, her enchanting face filled with arrogance and pride, puffing out her chest and casually declaring, "If they dare look at me, this young lady will dig out their eyes." "That's too much." Kai Yang frowned. "Isn't being beautiful so that others can look at you? If others don't look at you, then what's the point of that? What's the point of being beautiful?" "What do you know?" Bai Luo glared at him. "You men's minds are filled with dirty thoughts. Seeing a beautiful woman you want to do bad things. This young lady doesn't want to be looked at like that." "Not everyone is like that." Yang Kai argued unconvincingly. Bai Luo swept her eyes over him for a moment before suddenly saying, You're definitely not. At the very least, when you looked at me, you didn't show any obscene eyes. I admit that you're better than most men in this regard." "Sister Bai Luo is too polite." Yang Kai responded lightly. "Now, where do you want to go?" Bai Luo crossed her arms behind her back, revealing her delicate curves. She said impatiently, "If you don't want to walk around, I will return to my residence to cultivate. Of course we have to stroll around. Fragrance City has more than one medicinal workshop, right? There are 4 or 5 rooms. You're still going to the pill shop?" Bai Luo looked at him with slight surprise. "You're not going to buy some soul-nourishing pills, are you?" "Of course." What's the point of buying so many? Do you even need them? Bai Luo grumbled before curling her lips and saying, Fine, 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 I won't meddle in your business. If you want to buy it, I'll take you there. Rolling her eyes, Bai Luo suddenly giggled before quickly putting on a serious expression, coughing lightly and pretending to be nonchalant as she led the way. Although Fragrance City was not small, there were only a few medicinal workshops here. After all, to be able to sell pills in large quantities, one needed a powerful family as a backer. The financial, human, and material resources involved were not something some small forces could satisfy. Therefore, in the entire city, there were only 5 medicinal workshops in total. Bai Luo led the way in front of Yang Kai for quite some time. Finally, after visiting the first 4 pill shops and sweeping up all the pills that could replenish one's soul and nourish one's soul, he led Yang Kai to the 5th pill shop. Inside Heaven-defying Medicine Workshop, a young man in a tight suit hurried up to the 2nd floor and knocked lightly on the door of a certain room. A thunderous voice immediately rang out from inside, Fuck, who is it? Didn't I tell you not to bother me if it wasn't important? Little brat, I'll twist your dog head off. Young master, it's about young lady Bai Luo. The young man in the tight suit was cursed like a dog but didn't complain at all, instead still replying respectfully. Immediately, a thumping sound came from inside, as if the person inside the room had quickly stood up and rushed out. On the 1st floor of Heaven-defying Medicine Workshop, the shop assistants who were working all wore bitter expressions as they stared up at the ceiling in horror, fearing that their young master would stomp a hole through it. With a crashing sound, the door was opened, and an extremely tall and sturdy man rushed out. He looked like a strong bear. This man wasn't very old, only in his early 20s, but he was extremely handsome and had a unique physique. His face was covered with a full beard, giving him an extremely rough appearance. Only his pair of small and narrow eyes, combined with his physique, gave him a somewhat sinister appearance. This was the young master of the family behind Heaven-defying Medicine Workshop, Lu. The Lu family was a great force in Fragrance City, and its patriarch was one of Fragrance City's elders. They had been assisting the Shanqing Luo for more than 200 years, and could be said to have worked hard for many years. The Lu family's main residence was not in Fragrance City, but rather a mountain villa 100 kilometers outside of the city. The reason why Lu Yu wanted to stay in Fragrance City's medicine workshop was because of his relationship with Bai Luo. Since accidentally meeting Bai Luo a year ago, Lu Yu had been shocked by her beauty and was determined to marry her into his family. Although Bai Luo's background was low, and she was neither a pretty girl from a humble family nor a noble family, she was still the most popular person in the Shanqing Luo, so the Lu family was quite supportive of this matter and allowed Lu Yu to stay in the city. Unfortunately this year, Lu Yu had only seen Bai Luo a few times, and each time it was Bai Luo who was forced to flee. The Shanqing Luo's palace, even Lu Yu didn't dare to casually break into it. Every time Bai Luo fled into the palace, Lu Yu could only sigh. If there was anyone in Fragrance City that Bai Luo was afraid of, it was none other than Lu Yu. Whenever Bai Luo thought about this man who was more than 4 times her size, she would wake up from nightmares. Rushing out of the room, Lu Yu grabbed the young man who had come to deliver the message. This young man was also extremely strong, but now he was being carried by Lu Yu like a little chick, his feet dangling off the ground. What happened to Bai Luo? Lu Yu asked hurriedly. The young man's forehead was dripping with cold sweat as he hurriedly said, Young master, didn't you say before that once young lady Bai Luo left the palace, you would report to me? Today she came out. She came out? Lu Yu looked overjoyed, tossing the young man to the ground before running 3 steps back and asking, Where is she now? The young man's expression became strange as he replied, Young lady Bai Luo is currently heading towards Heaven-defying Medicine Square. HM? Lu Yu stared blankly for a moment before asking coldly, Are your dog eyes not deceiving you? It's true, she really is heading towards Heaven-defying Medicine Square. How could that be? Although Lu Yu's appearance was earth-shattering, what was at odds with his physique was that he was a clever man. He had long known that Bai Luo didn't like him and had always been chased back to the Queen's Master's palace. So how could she possibly be a sheep in a tiger's den this time? Did she come alone? Suddenly, as if thinking of something, Li Yu's expression became cold, his small and narrow eyes narrowing slightly as a cold light flashed across them. No. The young man who had delivered the message trembled and stammered, It seems she came with a young man. Li Yu's yuan qi suddenly erupted, causing the second floor of the room to shatter as he sneered, A young man? I'd like to see who dares have ideas about this father's woman. On the street, Yang Kai stared at Bai Luo suspiciously. Although he knew that she was definitely up to something, Yang Kai wasn't quite sure what she was planning to do. This enchanting girl's expression was quite hesitant, her brow furrowed, as if she was struggling to decide what to do. Bai Luo was naturally a little worried. Lu Yu wasn't an easy person to deal with, so if he really came to Heavenly Le Medicine Square, it would definitely cause some trouble. What if this smelly brat was killed by Lu Yu? He was an honored guest of her master. If something really happened to him, it would be difficult to explain to the master. However, Bai Luo quickly calmed down. If she really couldn't handle it, she could just use her master's name. Even if Li Yu was arrogant, he wouldn't dare not give face to the master. And teaching this little brat a lesson should be enough, lest he think this girl is easy to bully. Remembering Yang Kai's previous attitude towards her, Bai Luo couldn't help grinding her teeth. Haven't we arrived yet? Yang Kai frowned and asked. Bai Luo was walking very slowly, obviously thinking about something. We're here. Bai Luo's slender fingers pointed forward. That's the largest medicine square in Fragrance City, and also the last one. How about, we don't go? Bai Luo suddenly said. At this moment, she didn't want to act so viciously. What's wrong? Yang Kai looked at her meaningfully, a playful look on his face. There's someone there, I hate him. I'm afraid we can't go. Yang Kai chuckled, someone else has come to invite us. Ah! Bai Luo was stunned, looking up and suddenly wearing a bitter expression. Several men dressed in martial attire quickly rushed out of the Heavenly Le Medicine clinic opposite them, and walked straight towards them. These people's strength wasn't weak, and although they weren't young, they were all masters at the Yuan Qi realm. When they arrived in front of the two, they all smiled and cupped their fists. Young Lady Bai Luo, my young master has been waiting for you for a long time. I hope young Lady Bai Luo will give us some face and come to the medicine square for a chat. I have nothing to say to your young master. Bai Luo's face filled with disgust as she pulled Yang Kai aside. Let's go. One of the men stepped forward and blocked her path, smiling bitterly. Young Lady Bai Luo, if you don't go, I'm afraid we'll lose a layer of skin today. I hope young Lady Bai Luo can take pity on us. We don't want to anger our young master. What does your life or death have to do with me? Bai Luo shouted coldly. The man who spoke helplessly said, Young master also said that if young Lady Bai Luo doesn't want to give us face, then forget it, but this young lord must come with us. He dares. Bai Luo's voice became colder and colder, her beautiful eyes filled with anger and regret. She really shouldn't have dragged Yang Kai into these muddy waters. She knew that coming here was definitely not a good thing, but she had still brought him along. Heh, whether we dare or not isn't up to young Lady Bai Luo to decide. This young lord, please? The men looked at Yang Kai with a smile. Yang Kai's expression remained indifferent as he frowned and said, I came here to buy pills. Whatever grievances you have, I won't get involved, so don't drag me in. Chapter 318. By now, Yang Kai also understood what was going on. That Liu probably had some kind of interest in Bai Luo, so when he saw Yang Kai together with Bai Luo, he couldn't help feeling annoyed. Bai Luo was also aware of this and had brought him here in hopes that Liu would teach him a lesson. But she didn't know why, but she regretted it now. Thinking so, Yang Kai glanced over at Bai Luo faintly. Feeling the cold light in his eyes, Bai Luo's heart clenched. Since this young lord wants to buy some pills, please, our Heavenly Le Medicine Square is the largest medicinal shop in Fragrance City, we won't disappoint you, heh. The young man in the black robes said to Yang Kai with a smile. Having reached this point, if he tried to leave now, he would only be looked down upon. What's more, the other party had clearly invited him over, so even if he wanted to leave he couldn't. I'll settle this with you when we get back. Yang Kai coldly snorted and stepped towards Heavenly Medicine Square. Bai Luo's face filled with worry as she hurried to catch up, her enchanting face filled with annoyance. The group entered Heavenly Medicine Square, but before Yang Kai could even stand still, he felt a pair of sharp and hostile eyes land on him. Following this gaze, Yang Kai's expression became cold. He had never seen such a tall and sturdy man before. His body was like an iron tower, and he was 2 heads taller than the average person. Moreover, the muscles on his body were bulging, and every piece of flesh was filled with explosive power. He was born with big arms and a round waist. He had a bear's waist and a tiger's back, just like a god standing there. His small and narrow eyes were narrowed, revealing only a small gap, but they still bloomed with a cold light as his mouth curled into a cold grin. Although he had not yet fought with him, Yang Kai could still feel a slight pressure from this burly man. This Liu Yu's combat strength was likely no worse than Qiu Yimeng's, perhaps even slightly higher. "Liu Yu, what do you want to do?" As soon as Bai Luo came in, she took the initiative and sternly said, "He is Master's honored guest, don't be too presumptuous." "Master's honored guest?" Liu Yu's expression was slightly startled. Immediately sneered, his eyes becoming as cold as ice. "Him? Who does he think he is? How can he be the Master's guest?" He obviously thought that Bai Luo was just trying to scare him and didn't take her words seriously. "I'm serious," Bai Luo anxiously said. "If anything happens to him, you'll also be finished. Master's anger is no joke. Even the Yu family can't protect you." "Cut the crap," Liu Yu said impatiently. Bai Luo being so protective of Yang Kai only made him feel more and more uncomfortable, grinning fiercely as he said, "Even if he is Master's honored guest, so what? It would be fine as long as he didn't die. Besides, with his thin arms and legs, I don't want to make a move. I don't want others to say that I'm bullying him." Hearing this, Bai Luo couldn't help breathing a sigh of relief. At least you have some self-awareness. As long as Liu Yu didn't make a move, no one would die. While the two were talking, Yang Kai just watched from the side. At this moment, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and say lightly, "You can settle your grudges by yourselves. As I said, I'm just here to buy some pills." "Buy pills?" Liu Yu grinned meaningfully. "If you want pills, I have plenty here. If others came here to buy them, the price would be fair, but if you want to buy them, I'm afraid it won't be so easy." "Liu Yu, do you really have to be like this?" Bai Luo's expression also became cold. "Your Heavenly Medicine Square opened its doors to do business. Why make things difficult for him?" "So what if I'm making things difficult for him? Unless, haha Bai Luo, you agree to marry me. As long as you marry me, I, your father, will immediately kowtow to this little brat and apologize." Liu Yu's expression changed as he looked at Bai Luo with a grin. "In your dreams?" Bai Luo clenched her teeth and refused. "This lady would rather marry a dog than marry you." Liu Yu didn't get angry and instead just smiled, as if even if Bai Luo said some harsh words, she wouldn't be able to provoke him. Turning his eyes to Yang Kai, Liu Yu's smile faded and his expression became cold. "Little brat, your luck isn't good. Since Bai Luo won't marry me, you're in big trouble." "What kind of pills do you want to buy?" Liu Yu suddenly asked. Bai Luo thought he had changed his mind and smiled happily, quickly replying, "Pills that can restore one's soul and soul." "Oh, the Heavenly Medicine Square still has a lot in stock." Liu Yu nodded, waving his hand. "Bring out all of these pills." The shop assistant in the Heavenly Medicine Square quickly complied and a moment later, brought out a dozen bottles of pills. "Just send them to my palace, I'll come to settle the bill another day." Bai Luo smiled lightly, looking at Liu Yu and saying, "I didn't think a bear like you would be so easy to talk to." Heh. Liu Yu grinned, turning to Yang Kai and saying, "Whether I agree or not depends on whether this friend gives me face or not. Face is earned by oneself, not given by others." Yang Kai coldly snorted. Being dragged into this mess for no reason, he was extremely unhappy. If he was unhappy, no one else would be happy. Liu Yu laughed heartily as if these words had touched his heart. "Friend, I'll give you 2 choices. First, take these pills and get the hell out of Fragrance City. Get as far away as you can and never appear in front of me again for the rest of your life. I choose the second choice. Yang Kai looked at him indifferently and interrupted his words. Lu Yu was stunned for a moment before grinning. Little brat, you're quite arrogant, I haven't seen someone like you in a long time. Saying so, he took the initiative to jump back a few steps and said to the other youths, you guys play with him, whether you win or lose, these pills belong to him. Bai Luo was shocked and screamed, hey, Lu Yu, you're going too far. All of them are at the Yuan Qi boundary, one-on-one is one thing, but how can you let them bully you with numbers? So what if they bully you with numbers? Lu Yu's face was full of disdain. Here, you can either compete with me in terms of wealth or family background. He has nothing, so he can only compete with me in terms of combat strength. What I hate most is arrogance. The several youths grinned, all of them shaking their necks and tilting their heads, slowly walking over to Yang Kai and surrounding him. The strength of these youths wasn't low, at least a Yuan Qi 3rd or 4th order cultivator, one of them even being a Yuan Qi 6th order cultivator. Inside Heavenly Medicine Square, several old men narrowed their eyes as they stared outside, their expressions indifferent. Although they were all immortal ascension boundary masters, they wouldn't intervene in a fight between youths. Lu Yu's arrogance wouldn't allow them to do so, but Yang Kai and Bai Luo had come together. Their relationship was definitely not ordinary, so if they really provoked the other immortal ascension boundary masters in the city, or even Shanqing Luo, things would only become more troublesome. No matter how much these youths fought, it was still a matter of loyalty, not something worth mentioning. Therefore, they just turned a blind eye to the situation outside. It wasn't the first time their young master had bullied others, killing them was a common occurrence, so it wasn't a big deal. Little brat. It's not too late to back out now. Father will allow you to choose one more time. Lu Yu laughed wildly. Before his laughter faded, Yang Kai had already made his move. A Yuan Qi 3rd order youth only saw a blur in front of his eyes before his whole body suddenly flew through the air, a burst of pain coming from his chest before he fell unconscious. Asterisk peng peng peng. Asterisk a series of muffled sounds rang out as 3 or 4 figures flew through the air. Accompanied by muffled groans and the sound of bones breaking, in the blink of an eye, several youths under Lu Yu fell to the ground with a loud thud. Only the Yuan Qi 6th order cultivator was left. He didn't even have time to recover before he found that his companions had been sent flying. A figure appeared in front of him like a gust of wind. In a panic, he hurriedly tried to defend himself, but his opponent easily broke through his defenses and he was completely suppressed before he could even react. A sky full of fist shadows, each one of them ethereal and illusory, flew towards him. Superimposed on top of each other, they suddenly bombarded his whole body. Asterisk pa 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 pa. Asterisk this person's Yuan Qi was so strong that he couldn't even lift a finger and the sound of bones breaking rang out from all over his body. In the midst of the explosion, Yang Kai leapt up and kicked him in the shoulder, sending him flying like a ragged sack before he fell to the ground, motionless. Lu Yu's pupils shrank. The moment Yang Kai attacked, he had already noticed the strength and purity of Yang Kai's true qi. The sudden burst of Yang Kai's true qi strength and purity made him almost unable to believe his eyes. In the blink of an eye, all of his subordinates had been wiped out. Ah! Bai Luo blinked her big eyes, a look of shock filling her face as she stared at Yang Kai in shock. Although she had been in contact with Yang Kai several times, she didn't know much about him. Her knowledge was limited to Yang Kai's not-so-high realm. This was the first time she had seen him fight. In a flash, 4 or 5 Yuan Qi cultivators had been defeated. What kind of combat strength was this? Could a Yuan Qi 5th stage cultivator achieve this? Bai Luo's heart trembled. She suddenly understood why her master valued him so much. Him being a Yuan Qi 5th stage cultivator seemed to be quite extraordinary. Inside Heavenly Medicine Square, the several old men also narrowed their eyes in shock. Yang Kai's attack was decisive and extremely ruthless. The several Yuan Qi young men all had their bones broken in at least a dozen places. The Yuan Qi 6th stage cultivator was even more miserable, probably unable to get out of bed for at least half a year. How come they had never heard of such a powerful and overbearing young man before? In the middle of the square, Yang Kai stood there indifferently, glancing over at Lu Yu before calling out, "Bai Luo." "HM?" Bai Luo was surprised and quickly responded, "Take these pills, let's go." N. Bai Luo quickly ran out and grabbed the dozen or so bottles of pills the shop assistant had brought out before walking over to Yang Kai with a worried expression. "You want to leave?" Lu Yu roared, his voice like a thunderbolt on a clear day, causing the entire street to tremble. With a loud roar, Lu Yu leapt up into the air and landed in front of Yang Kai, blocking his way, glaring at him menacingly. "You want to leave after injuring my people? You won't get away so easily." "What do you want?" Yang Kai stared at him coldly. "Fight with me." Lu Yu cracked his neck, his expression fierce. "If you can beat me, it won't be too late for you to leave." "Lu Yu, don't go too far." Bai Luo frowned coldly. "I've already gotten what I want. Do you still have the capital to make me fight?" Yang Kai looked at him disdainfully. Lu Yu sneered, "A pill to supplement your soul. There is also a divine spirit pill in the square, a mysterious grade low-rank pill. What do you think?" "Not interested." Chapter 319. You don't even fancy a mysterious grade pill? Lu Yu was startled. This wasn't an ordinary pill, but one that could repair one's spiritual energy. The value of this pill was much higher than a bottle of other mysterious grade pills, at least a few 100,000 silvers. Mysterious grade pills weren't something that could be casually refined. In the entire Great Han Dynasty, there were no more than 30 alchemists who could refine mysterious grade pills, yet Lu Yu didn't even spare a glance at them. Was this little brat's vision so high? "Not interested," Yang Kai quickly said. Lu Yu's eyes suddenly became cold, and his yuan qi fiercely burst forth. "Father doesn't care if you're interested or not. Since you've been targeted by Father, you'll have to fight even if you don't want to." As he spoke, the ground where he stood cracked and stone fragments flew out. A dark purple light emerged from Lu Yu's body and transformed into an invisible energy that rushed towards Yang Kai. "Lu Yu, if you dare hurt him, you're dead." Bai Luo's beautiful face went pale as she screamed. Although Yang Kai had just defeated several yuan qi cultivators in a flash, Lu Yu was different. He was a famous existence in the entire ash-gray cloud evil land, and although his appearance wasn't very good, his combat strength was quite high. Few of the younger generation could fight against him. Moreover, Lu Yu was a bloodthirsty person. Those who had exchanged blows with him all died cleanly, not leaving a single one alive. Bai Luo didn't know if Yang Kai was his opponent, so how could she not be worried? If something really happened to Yang Kai, how could she explain this to Shanqing Luo? While she was still in shock, Yang Kai's yuan qi also burst forth. Asterisk poo poo poo. Asterisk the two attacks condensed from their respective yuan qi collided and were evenly matched. Lu Yu's invisible attack was cleanly resolved. Before he had time to catch his breath, Yang Kai suddenly saw Lu Yu's mouth curl into a smug smile. His expression changed and he leaped into the air. Asterisk C. Asterisk suddenly, an evil light shot out from the ground, almost piercing through Yang Kai's foot. "Ha!" A cold light flashed in Lu Yu's eyes. He didn't expect Yang Kai to be so vigilant and able to avoid that sudden attack. Yang Kai, who had leaped into the air, looked like a burning fireball. The true Yang Yuan Qi was pushed to the limit. It swooped down like an eagle soaring through the sky, carrying with it a destructive force. Sensing the heat and pressure coming from above his head, Lu Yu didn't dare to be careless. He raised both his palms and met the attack head-on. Boom boom boom. The violent yuan qi collided with each other like waves, and each collision brought out a halo of light. It spread outwards like ripples. In such a collision, Lu Yu's tower-like body slowly sank into the ground. It wasn't that he wasn't as strong as Yang Kai, but that the ground couldn't withstand such an attack. With Lu Yu as the center, cracks that looked like turtle patterns had already appeared on the ground where he stood. The cold light in Yang Kai's eyes grew stronger. He threw out his yuan qi without any scruples, trying to push Lu Yu into the ground. Sensing his intentions, Lu Yu let out a furious roar. Like a mad beast, his muscles bulged as he used all the strength in his body to fiercely throw out a punch. Half of Fragrance City trembled. The surrounding shops were smashed into pieces by this punch, and the shop assistants inside all screamed. They hurriedly ran away. Even Heavenly Medicine Square couldn't avoid it. Yang Kai looked dignified. He had no intention of dodging. Burning Sun's 3-layer blast. 3 bursts of energy instantly superimposed under Yang Kai's control. Boom! Liyu's body was smashed half into the ground, and Kai Yang borrowed the force of the rebound to float to the side. Once he had stabilized his footing, his face was slightly pale. Liyu didn't suffer from this blow. Instead, it was Yang Kai who suffered. But being forcefully smashed into the ground, what Liyu lost was face. There was complete silence, not a sound could be heard. The onlookers all turned to look at Yang Kai again, their eyes filled with shock and surprise. None of them had expected him to be able to beat Liyu into such a state. What's going on? A number of figures flew over from all directions, all of them Immortal Ascension boundary masters from the city. Under Shanqing Luo's management, Fragrance City rarely had street fights, but today's battle had caused such a ruckus that even the Immortal Ascension boundary masters couldn't help but rush over to see what was going on. After discovering that the one fighting at the scene was actually Liyu, they couldn't help feeling stunned. The most important thing was that Liyu seemed to have suffered a loss. His body was buried in the ground, and the one he was fighting was actually just a young boy. What happened? Who is Liyu fighting with? These people flew to the side and grabbed a few of the Immortal Ascension boundary masters inside Heavenly Medicine Square. Who is he? He can actually fight Liyu head-on. One of the Lu family masters smiled bitterly. We don't know where this little brat came from, but according to Bai Luo, he is an honored guest of the Queen's master. An honored guest of the Queen's master? How come we haven't heard of him? Don't worry about that, what should we do now? It's over, the young master has never suffered such a big loss before. This time I'm afraid he won't be able to settle this peacefully. Heh. In the middle of the field, Liu suddenly laughed a few times, raising his head and glaring at Yang Kai, the chill in his eyes almost solidifying as he said in a low voice, "No one has ever dared to treat me like this, your courage isn't small." As he spoke, Lu Yu's body once again emitted a purple demonic qi, but this time, this demonic qi was like a solid tattoo on his body. Demonic purple qi body. Some of the Immortal Ascension boundary masters in the crowd exclaimed, "Is Lu Yu going to use this move?" The young master still can't suppress this demonic qi. Quickly stop him. It's too late. What kind of background does this little brat have? How did he force the young master to use this move? The group of people were so anxious that their foreheads were dripping with sweat, but there was nothing they could do. They could only hope that Li Yu would quickly defeat Yang Kai and disperse his demonic purple qi body. The demonic purple qi body was a martial skill that was born inside the evil cavern. A cultivator would enter the evil cavern and absorb the flowing Time Great Emperor's demonic qi. If one's luck was good enough and if one's aptitude was high enough, they would be able to comprehend this martial skill. Every year, many cultivators would enter the evil cavern in an attempt to comprehend its mysteries, but the number of people who entered was not small, and many of them died. Occasionally, there would be a few people who were lucky enough to come out alive, but they were not necessarily able to comprehend this martial skill. Lu Yu was one of those who had successfully comprehended this martial skill. Every year, he would spend a period of time in the evil cavern to absorb the demonic qi in order to enhance the power of this martial skill. After so many years, this martial skill could already play a significant role. Using the demonic purple qi body, Lu Yu's strength soared, his eyes flashing with a fierce light. Leaping up from the ground, he grinned maliciously as he approached Yang Kai. As he took a step forward, a mace suddenly appeared in his hand. The barbs on the mace were incomparably sharp, and the surface of the mace flashed with a bright red light, as if it was made of thick blood. This mace had obviously killed a lot of people. Li was going all out. Everyone who saw this knew that he must have flown into a rage out of humiliation. That was why he had used the demonic purple qi body as well as an artifact. He didn't intend to hold back at all. Yang Kai, you be careful. He doesn't have any sense of reason right now. Bai Luo's beautiful face went pale as she screamed towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai glanced at her coldly and snorted. Noticing the approaching demonic qi, Yang Kai leisurely pushed Jin Yang Yuan qi back into the dantian. The energy inside the unyielding golden skeletons suddenly erupted. Asterisk qua. Asterisk as if dark clouds had covered the sky, a dark turbulence instantly swallowed all the light. Everyone only felt their vision go dark and they couldn't see anything. Immediately, two scarlet eyes lit up in the darkness, just like Liu Yu's, filled with madness, bloodthirst, and cruelty. What a strong evil qi! Everyone was shocked as they stared at Yang Kai's transformation in amazement, all of them dumbfounded for a moment. These immortal ascension boundary masters all had extremely sharp divine senses and keen eyesight. How could they not notice that Yang Kai's evil qi was even stronger than Liu Yu's? Could it also be a martial skill he comprehended inside the evil cavern? Why does it look so similar to Liu Yu's? Besides the color of their bodies being different, there wasn't much difference. No, it's not the same. A relatively strong immortal ascension boundary master said in amazement. Look, although their eyes are similar, Liu Yu obviously doesn't have much consciousness left. His mind has been swallowed by the evil qi inside his body. He's acting on instinct. But this boy, his eyes are very calm. Could it be he can suppress the evil qi inside his body? I'm afraid so. Damn, what kind of freak is this? A group of people suddenly shouted. Only the several immortal ascension boundary masters from heavenly Lu Medicine Square frowned. You're dead, heh? Liu Yu muttered under his breath, his cold and crazed eyes locked onto Yang Kai. Holding his mace, Liu Yu slowly walked over, and as he approached, a violent pressure pressed down on Yang Kai. Yang Kai waved his hand and summoned the blood-red Azura sword into his hand. With a shake of the sword, Yang Kai's body instantly filled with sword qi. A heaven-grade artifact. The group of immortal ascension boundary masters exclaimed. Heaven-grade artifacts were rare. Even for these people, only a few of them possessed a heaven-grade artifact. Moreover, this was a heaven-grade longsword artifact. Its value was much higher than ordinary artifacts. As soon as this sword appeared, the evil qi emanating from this boy's body seemed to become denser, even more tyrannical than before. At such a young age, his strength was so tyrannical, and he even had a heaven-grade artifact to protect himself, not to mention he was an honored guest of the beguiling demon queen. This little brat's background wasn't small. Perceiving this, the foreheads of the Lu family's immortal ascension boundary masters were instantly filled with cold sweat. Was he the descendant of one of the evil kings? If that was the case, and Liu Yu had provoked him like this, the Lu family would be in big trouble. Sister Bai Luo, Sister Bai Luo. One of the Lu family masters quietly came over to Bai Luo's side and whispered cautiously, "What is this young lord's identity?" Bai Luo stared at Yang Kai, her seductive face completely drained of blood as she smiled bitterly and said, "I don't know, it was Master who brought him back. I said he was Master's honored guest." "You don't know anything?" The Master didn't give up and continued to ask. Bai Luo slowly shook her head. Asterisk hong hong hong. Asterisk while the two were talking, Liu Yu and Yang Kai had already begun fighting. Liu Yu, with his demonic purple qi body, held a huge mace in his hand, each of his strikes seeming to contain a tremendous amount of power. As he weaved through the air, Yang Kai's dark sword qi was shattered into pieces. Chapter 320. Liu Yu's physique was strong and robust. With a huge wolf-tooth club in his hand, he exuded a tyrannical aura of supremacy. Every time he swung the wolf-tooth club, every strike would cover a huge area. The thousands of sword qi streams surrounding Yang Kai's body were destroyed before they could even play a role. His face sinking, Yang Kai waved his hand and sent out a black sword wave condensed from Yuan qi, shooting straight towards Liu Yu, almost cutting the void in half. Liu Yu grinned and did not dodge, instead raising his club and slashing down. With a bang, the black sword wave was shattered, and although Liu Yu's body was slightly shaken, he was not injured in the slightest. His footsteps did not stop as he fiercely smashed towards Yang Kai. Wrapped in the inky black demonic qi, Yang Kai's pair of red eyes flashed coldly. Black chi swirled around his palms as he fiercely pushed them forward. White tiger seal, divine ox seal. Accompanied by the roar of a tiger and the roar of an ox, two huge black beast phantoms appeared, one baring its fangs as it pounced towards Liu while the other rushed forward. Asterisk dong dong dong. Asterisk the earth trembled fiercely. Lu Yu's eyes flashed with madness. Not only was he not shocked, he laughed loudly and went up to greet him. He shouted, Good, but you are still dead. I will drink your blood dry. You are qualified to make me do that. The wolf-tooth club swept out in both directions and the two beast phantoms were directly blown away, dissipating into the air and disappearing. However, after this short delay, Yang Kai had already made his next move. 3 sword chi streams opened up a path in front of him as his demonic chi suddenly transformed into a giant hand that covered the sky and slammed down towards Liu. 2 months ago, Yang Kai was still unable to control his own demonic chi at will. But since learning Xiao Fusheng's method of controlling Yuan Qi on Hidden Cloud Peak, his ability to control this demonic chi was no longer something he could compare to before. Although this kind of control was still superficial, it was much better than before. Quickly approaching, Liu smashed the 3 sword chi streams with his club, causing his hairs to stand on end as his purple demonic chi surged. Before he could dodge, he was struck by the pitch-black hand. Hong long long, it was as if the entire earth had been slapped down, and the green slabs turned into fragments that fluttered about endlessly. The darkness churned, and Liu completely disappeared into the darkness. Bai Luo's jaw dropped, not knowing what to say. She had thought that Yang Kai's previous performance was already strong enough, but she had never imagined that this wasn't even Yang Kai's true level. The mysteriousness and strangeness of this person had far exceeded Bai Luo's imagination. Young Master? The several Lu family Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters exclaimed. However, he immediately calmed down. Under the probing of their divine senses, they found that Liu's vital energy and blood had not weakened at all. Instead, due to his anger, they were rapidly increasing in strength. This little brat is quite fierce, actually being able to force Liu to eat defeat after defeat. Haha, I really want to see what kind of expression that old dog Lu Wuji will have when he hears this news. An Immortal Ascension boundary cultivator who had come to watch the show laughed loudly. He seemed to be very happy to see Liu being bullied. Lu Wuji, the previous patriarch of the Lu family, Peak Immortal Ascension Boundary. He was also an elder of Fragrant City. What a pity, the several elders and master have all gone to the Beast King's territory. I'm afraid we won't be able to see them for the time being. Someone else gloated. The faces of the several Lu family Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters suddenly went black. All of them glared hatefully at these people. Yang Kai's expression remained cold, his brow wrinkling slightly as he carefully sensed the changes in Liu's aura. Suddenly, a faint purple light burst forth from the boundless darkness. When this faint light appeared, it looked like a small flame. However, this flame quickly spread outwards like a prairie fire. Asterisk shio shio shio. Asterisk a burst of purple demonic chi broke through the darkness and shot towards Yang Kai like a bolt of lightning. This purple demonic chi almost condensed into a tangible substance, like a burning flame, but what was strange was that not only did it not have the slightest heat, it instead gave off a bone-chilling cold. Asterisk pa 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 pa. Asterisk Yang Kai's demonic chi surged, the black and purple demonic chi madly colliding, neither side able to gain the upper hand. A moment later, the purple demonic chi returned, breaking through the blockade of darkness, and Liu's burly figure once again appeared in front of everyone. Hehehehe. Liu rested his huge mace on his shoulder, letting out a low and gloomy laugh. Yang Kai's expression sank. He suddenly discovered that at some point his body had caught fire, and this time it was a purple demonic fire. A bone-chilling cold spread from the location of the fire, quickly wrapping around his entire body. As the demonic fire burned, not only did it cause one to feel a chill from the bottom of their heart, but it also caused their energy to rapidly dissipate. This was not a fire, but rather the effect of the purple demonic chi that had reached a certain level of density. As the temperature of his body rapidly decreased, So did the demonic qi around him. Yang Kai's entire body was quickly covered in a layer of frost, even his hair and clothes becoming white as snow. Lu Yu's mouth bloomed into a cold grin. "You're dead." As he spoke, the purple tattoos on Lu Yu's body seemed to come alive, breaking off from his skin and transforming into terrifying vipers that opened their fangs and bit towards Yang Kai. "This little brat is finished." The spectating Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters once again excitedly commented. In this group of people, with the exception of the Lu family's masters, they were all eager to see the world burn. Who cared if Yang Kai was a master, an honored guest, or a young master of the Lu family? If his body had not been frozen, he might have been able to fight Lu Yu, but now that his body was frozen, his movements were sluggish, so how could he avoid Lu Yu's attack? In for a penny, in for a pound. After Lu Yu released the purple-tattooed snakes, he also rushed towards Yang Kai with his wolf-tooth club. He was determined to kill him. "Don't!" Bai Luo screamed, but how could Lu Yu, who had lost most of his consciousness and only wanted to kill Yang Kai, pay her any attention? At that moment, the sluggish Yang Kai's body suddenly fluttered with blood-red petals. A seemingly intoxicating floral fragrance wafted out from these petals. These petals quickly gathered together and soon formed the shape of a blooming begonia flower, which wrapped around Yang Kai's body, leaving not the slightest gap. Another heaven-grade artifact? The Immortal Ascension Boundary Master's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Only now did they realize that the situation was far from good. If Yang Kai taking out a heaven-grade artifact before made them realize that Yang Kai had some background, then this one was truly not small. At the very least, this wasn't something the Lu family could contend with. What kind of force could allow a young man to carry two heaven-grade artifacts? Moreover, both of them were weapons that exuded thick murderous intent? The Lu family couldn't. Lu Yu only had a single heaven-grade artifact. Was this young man related to one of the other 5 great evil kings? Or was he the disciple of some hidden master? The Lu family's Immortal Ascension Boundary Master's jaws dropped. "What are you waiting for? You idiots! Quickly stop Lu Yu." One of the spectating Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters didn't want to make things too big and quickly reminded them. Oh! The Lu family masters woke up from their stupor, not daring to hesitate. They all rushed towards the battlefield. In front of the budding thousand-blossoming blood begonia, Lu Yu held his mace high and released his full strength. With a loud bang, the flower bud instantly shattered, revealing Yang Kai inside. With a muffled groan, Yang Kai was sent flying, vomiting a mouthful of blood mid-air, but the purple demonic flames that originally wrapped around his body had disappeared at some point. His expression extremely cold, Yang Kai quickly waved his hands. Thousands of petals flew back and forth. The Azura sword's sword light was like a snake coming out of its hole, swallowing and spitting. A huge sword light appeared and slashed down towards Lu Yu. Lu Yu's pupils shrank. With a roar, his muscles bulged as he raised his mace to block the sword light. But the thousands of petals continued to attack. "All of you stop." The Lu family's Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters finally arrived, one blocking Yang Kai while the rest rushed to Lu Yu's side. With the combined strength of these masters, the thousand-blossoming blood begonia and the Azura sword chi were both blocked. "Young master, stop fighting. Get out of my way, I'll kill him, I can kill him." Lu Yu's yuan chi surged violently as he waved his mace, sending the Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters into a panic. "Who the fuck stops me? I'll kill them all." The several Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters glanced at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes, suddenly nodding and quickly attacking. With a series of bangs, Lu Yu was knocked unconscious. They had no choice but to do this. Knocking Lu Yu out like this would inevitably cause him to suffer a backlash from the demonic purple chi body. After all, he still couldn't completely control the demonic energy in his body. Because of this concern, even though they knew Yang Kai's background wasn't small, they didn't stop him. But when Yang Kai took out a second heaven-grade artifact, even if they didn't want to stop him, they had no choice but to. This young man's background had suddenly become much bigger. Lu Yu suffering some injuries wasn't a big deal, but the key was that they couldn't afford to offend the great force behind Yang Kai. That great force or master was not someone the Lu family could provoke. What's more, he was an honored guest of the Shanqing Luo. They couldn't afford to provoke him. What do you mean? Yang Kai stared coldly at the Lu family's immortal ascension boundary master blocking his way, methodically taking back his 1,000-blossoming blood begonia. Young lord. The Lu family's immortal ascension boundary master frowned, cupping his fists and smiling bitterly. Young lord, please calm your anger. My young master has offended you many times before. I hope young lord can forgive him. As you can see, my young master has lost his mind after using his demonic purple chi body. He doesn't really want to fight to the death with you, so this battle, let's end here. Yang Kai raised his brow and sneered, your Lu family is quite arrogant, fighting as you please and stopping as you please? The Lu family's immortal ascension boundary master was suddenly at a loss for words, his expression turning ugly. However, he was also powerless to refute. This young man had said before he came that he was only here to buy pills, yet his young master had insisted on provoking him. Just as he didn't know how to answer, Yang Kai lightly said, since he was knocked unconscious by you, even if I wanted to continue, I wouldn't be able to. Please forgive me, young lord. The Lu family's immortal ascension boundary master smiled apologetically, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Thinking the other party was easy to talk to, he couldn't help feeling grateful. Yang Kai coldly snorted, turned around and walked away, his cold voice echoing, this matter isn't over. Chapter 321. Bai Luo carefully followed behind Yang Kai, holding a dozen or so bottles of spiritual energy restoring pills in her arms. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared towards the not-so-tall figure in front of her, her brow furrowed in a complicated and annoyed expression. What she had done today really made her regret it. If she hadn't taken him to Heavenly Medicine Square, nothing would have happened. The key was that she had first intended to let Liu teach him a lesson, but the result was that she hadn't intended to be so vicious and ended up offending him. Not only that, but he was also so strong that he was able to fight evenly with Liu. At the end of the day, Bai Luo felt like she had no sense of shame at all. Along the way, Yang Kai's silence and indifference made her feel even more uncomfortable. After finally returning to the palace, Bai Luo couldn't bear it any longer and quickly stepped in front of Yang Kai, blocking his path and angrily asking, why aren't you saying anything? Yang Kai glanced over at her faintly, his brow furrowing slightly. Hey! Bai Luo stretched out her hand and waved it in front of him. Why are you ignoring me? I know you're very strong, but you don't need to ignore me like this, right? When I took you to Heavenly Medicine Square before, I really wanted to let Liu teach you a lesson. Who told you to be so hateful? But later, I didn't want to do that, but at that time, the situation was already out of my control, and, I'm sorry, don't be angry. Although Bai Luo was an orphan and didn't come from a noble background, she was still the most popular person in Shanqing Luo's eyes. On top of that, she was an enchanting beauty and had always been quite arrogant. Coupled with her unique hobbies, she had never put any man in her eyes. When Shanqing Luo brought Yang Kai back that day, she had not only allowed him to live in Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion. She had also sent 3 of the palace's best women to serve him, naturally causing Bai Luo to feel a little annoyed. Bai Luo didn't have a good impression of Yang Kai, but because of Shanqing Luo's orders, she had never taken Yang Kai seriously. Until today's battle, Yang Kai was able to compete with Liu and even not fall into a disadvantage. Bai Luo realized that this man was different from other men and understood why Shanqing Luo valued him so much. With her temper and arrogance, sincerely apologizing at this time was simply too much. This was the limit of what she could do. Standing in place, Yang Kai's brow furrowed as he stared at Bai Luo. He didn't speak. Bai Luo's expression suddenly became unhappy and she angrily said, I've already apologized, can't you forgive me? Isn't it said that all men are magnanimous? I don't think so. Yang Kai suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed Bai Luo's lapel, and pulled her in front of him. Bai Luo's beautiful face paled in an instant, almost reflexively wanting to attack, but remembering Yang Kai's terrifying combat power, she quickly changed her mind. Luo of Yang Kai's, you're dead. Yang Kai snorted coldly. His tone was cold and firm, not sounding like he was joking at all. Noticing his seriousness, Bai Luo's heart couldn't help trembling. His entire body was ice cold. Just as she was about to say something stubborn, Yang Kai suddenly let go of her. His face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. There was also a trace of purple energy in the blood. That trace of energy was squirming. It was as if it was alive. Bai Luo exclaimed. Get lost. Yang Kai suddenly sent out a palm strike, pushing Bai Luo back a few dozen meters, and in the next moment, his body was wrapped in a thick layer of purple demonic flames. A bone-chilling coldness spread out, Yang Kai's hair and clothes instantly turned white, and wisps of icy cold aura spread out. Kacha, with Yang Kai as the center, a radius of more than 100 feet was instantly frozen. Bai Luo's beautiful eyes trembled violently as she stared at Yang Kai. It turned out that this person hadn't completely neutralized the power of Liyu's attack, but had instead used some unknown method to seal it inside his body. Now it was acting up again. This was the purple demonic spirit fire from the evil cavern. It wasn't a real fire, but rather a condensed form of energy from the purple demonic spirit qi. Liyu had absorbed and refined this energy, mixing it into his attacks. This kind of demonic energy was extremely difficult to deal with. Once one was struck by it, they would become like maggots. Unless one's strength far surpassed Liyu's, sooner or later their yuan qi would be swallowed up by this demonic energy and frozen to death. Bai Luo had only heard about it but had never seen it before. Today was the first time she had the privilege of witnessing it. Are you hurt? Bai Luo asked in a trembling voice. Noticing Yang Kai's current state, the dissatisfaction in her heart was instantly replaced by guilt. Nonsense, why don't you try being hit by that mace? Yang Kai grit his teeth and replied, taking a deep breath and circulating his true Yang secret art, once again suppressing the purple demonic spirit fire from his body into his meridians. Lu Yu was worthy of being a master of the younger generation. Although it seemed that Yang Kai had won the battle, and even the Lu family's immortal ascension boundary masters had come out to support him. But the real result was only known to Yang Kai himself. If they had really continued fighting, he wasn't sure he would have won. After all, Liyu's cultivation was 4 minor realms higher than his own. On top of that, that mace had hit Yang Kai hard. Even with the protection of the 1,000 blossoming blood begonia, Yang Kai's 5 viscera and 6 organs had all been dislocated. Then what do we do? Bai Luo asked anxiously. Heal me? Are you a pig? Then let's go back quickly. Bai Luo hurriedly said, stepping forward to support Yang Kai and quickly rushing back to Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion. Although Yang Kai had called her a pighead, Bai Luo wasn't the slightest bit annoyed. At the very least, she didn't feel any cold murderous intent from Yang Kai's tone. In other words, he wasn't angry at all. Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion. As soon as Yang Kai returned, he went straight to the first floor, quickly removing his robes and diving into the warm bath. Outside, the 3 women who were serving Yang Kai stood side by side with Bai Luo. What happened to young lord? The beautiful woman Yunli noticed something was wrong and asked softly. He fought with Liu and suffered some injuries. Bai Luo replied softly. Yunli reached out and covered her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. You fought with the Lu family's young master? Why did you fight? Don't ask, it's my fault. Bai Luo sighed, handing over the pills in her sleeve to Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing, a look of loss filling her face. The beautiful woman Yunli stared at her thoughtfully for a moment and couldn't help understanding many things, so she didn't ask any more questions. Elder sister Yun, he seems to still have some prejudice against me. How can I apologize to him in order to appease his anger? After a moment of silence, Bai Luo suddenly turned and asked, Apologize? Yunli's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of surprise as she stared at Bai Luo in amazement, joking, little Bai Luo actually knows how to apologize, the sun must have risen from the west today. Could it be that you— No. Bai Luo glared at her fiercely before suddenly smiling wickedly. You slut, what's going on in that head of yours? Do you want me to teach you a lesson so you don't become too dissatisfied? Don't. Yunli was taken aback and quietly moved away from Bai Luo. Then tell me, what should I do? Yunli smiled sweetly, her face blushing slightly as she whispered, a woman's body is the best weapon. You really do have such thoughts in your head. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Bai Luo said angrily, you keep an eye on him, I'll go back first. If anything happens here, don't forget to inform me. Yunli, Ruo Yu, and Ruo Qing nodded together. Inside the bath, Yang Kai closed his eyes and began circulating his true Yang secret art. The purple evil qi was flowing through his meridians and being incinerated by the pure true Yang Yuan qi, some of it being expelled from his body while the rest being absorbed by the unyielding golden skeleton. Although this energy was also extremely evil qi, essentially sharing the same source as the unyielding golden skeleton's energy, there were still some differences. This was the energy Lu Yu cultivated, mixed with his understanding of the martial Dao and brand, as well as his own aura. Lu Yu's understanding of the martial Dao and Yang Kai's brand were incompatible, so they could only be eliminated. What was left was the purple spirit demonic qi that Lu Yu had absorbed from the evil cavern, which could be absorbed by the unyielding golden skeleton after being refined. This evil qi was very difficult to dissolve, so it took Yang Kai 3 or 4 days to gradually dissolve and refine the purple spirit demonic qi in his meridians. From the unyielding golden skeleton, it seemed that this so-called purple spirit demonic qi was very much to its liking. This discovery made Yang Kai's heart tremble. His battle with Liu had not resulted in a clear victory or defeat, but thanks to that battle, Yang Kai's true element boundary 5th stage cultivation had been completely consolidated. Yang Kai had also seen what kind of strength the top masters of his generation had. So far, he had only encountered a few difficult opponents: 9 Star Sword School's Wu Cheng-yi, Qiu family's Qiu Yi-meng, and this Liu. Each of them had extraordinary backgrounds, so their strength was a wake-up call to Yang Kai, and he no longer dared to underestimate any of them. The world was so vast, who knew how many geniuses there were like them? Slowly opening his eyes, Yang Kai felt both physically and mentally refreshed. His injured 5 viscera and 6 organs had all returned to their original positions, and the water in the bathtub had become a deep purple color, giving it a terrifying appearance. Getting up from the bathtub, Yang Kai dried the water on his body, put on his clothes, and went outside. When Yunli, Ruo Yu, and Ruo Qing saw him come out, they couldn't help smiling happily. Has young lord's injuries healed? Yunli quickly stepped forward and asked. Yang Kai nodded. That's good. Yunli also breathed a sigh of relief, turning to Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing and saying, go inform Miss Bai Luo that young lord has fully recovered, so she doesn't need to worry. Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing nodded, turning around and leaving. Yunli stared at Yang Kai meaningfully, smiling as she said, young lord may not know, but Miss Bai Luo has been coming here several times a day to inquire about your condition. I can see that she hasn't rested well these past few days, so she must be very tired. She asked for it. Yang Kai snorted. The reason Bai Luo was so concerned about him was not because she was worried, but rather because she was afraid that Shanqing Luo would punish her when she found out. How could Yang Kai not understand this? Yunli pursed her lips and smiled. Bai Luo is still young and not very sensible. Living in the palace all year round and being doted on by master, she really is spoiled. Young lord is master's magnanimity, there's no need to lower yourself to her level. Chapter 322. Let's see how she performs in the future. Seeing Yunli speak up for Bai Luo, Yang Kai didn't say anything more. What's more, he didn't want to bring up the previous matter again. He was only angry that Bai Luo had schemed against him and dragged him into such a troublesome situation. He believed that after this incident, Bai Luo wouldn't dare act rashly again. Yunli then said, the pills young lord bought before have been placed in your bedroom, and the accounts have also been settled. Yang Kai nodded lightly. Yang Kai couldn't help thinking to himself that having a big backer really made a difference. Buying so many bottles of spiritual energy restoring pills without having to pay for them himself, it was no wonder that the young lords and young ladies of great forces were able to cultivate much faster than the average person. With such a huge amount of resources at their disposal, if they started from the same starting line, their achievements would always be higher than others. This world had always been so unfair. Also, the Liu family sent someone to deliver something the day before yesterday. The beautiful woman continued to report with a smile. Oh, the Liu family? Yang Kai's brow rose slightly, a bit surprised. And they sent a bottle of mysterious grade pills, which are also used to restore one's soul. Yunli looked towards Yang Kai, covering her mouth as she giggled. I heard that the Liu family transferred these pills from their family headquarters 100 kilometers away and ordered this servant to make sure young lord accepts them. Seeing that young lord was in the middle of healing, this servant took the initiative to keep them. Young lord, do you want to return them? Of course not. Yang Kai grinned meaningfully. Why would I want to return them? Since they sent them to my doorstep, naturally I have to accept them. Seemingly knowing he would say this, Yunli nodded slightly. That's true. If I were to return them, I'm afraid it would cause the Liu family to lose face, so it's best to turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. Young lord really is a magnanimous person. This flattery, Yang Kai couldn't help sweating slightly. The Liu family sending him such a precious gift, Yang Kai could understand, it was nothing more than trying to resolve the previous crisis. However, the Liu family was still a great force. Yang Kai was rather surprised that he was willing to compromise. Shanqing Luo is quite awe-inspiring. Yang Kai muttered softly. He only thought that Yu Jia was being nice because of Shanqing Luo. What he didn't know was that the Yu family didn't know his background and didn't want to offend him. If they could kill Yang Kai quietly, they would be able to do so. How could the Liu family be so generous? But the key point was that the battle between Yang Kai and Liu took place in Fragrant City, and so many people were watching it. For the time being, they did not dare to offend him and could only swallow their anger. Although a bottle of profound level pills was expensive, it was still not enough. But the Yu family could afford it. Hearing his words, Yunli smiled and continued, there is one more thing I need to report to young master. What is it? There are many young masters and young ladies from the great forces in the city who want to invite young master to their residence. I'm afraid they want to make friends with young master. Yang Kai's origin was too mysterious, and it was difficult not to attract the attention of others. These days, the great forces of Fragrant City had been inquiring about Yang Kai's background, but after inquiring about it, not to mention his origin, even his name was not clear. So they wanted to invite Yang Kai. They wanted to use this opportunity to spy on him. If his background was really not small, they naturally wanted to make friends with him. If he didn't have a background, there was no harm. With such a promising young man, any force would be willing to extend an olive branch. Not going. Yang Kai frowned. I have nothing to say to them. Seeing him refuse so decisively, the beautiful woman was startled for a moment before she smiled. That's fine. I'm going to cultivate. After saying this to her, Yang Kai directly rushed up to the second floor. Watching his back disappear, the beautiful woman Yunli wore a strange expression and shook her head with a wry smile. She had never seen someone so obsessed with cultivation. From the looks of it, his strength was not without reason. The next few days, Yang Kai continued to pry into the mysteries of the true alchemic way, but his progress was very slow. He didn't know when he would be able to see the whole picture. However, Yang Kai didn't care. He only wanted to use the true alchemic way to cultivate his spiritual energy. Obtaining the knowledge contained within the true alchemic way was only secondary. After consuming a bottle of pills to restore his spiritual energy, Yang Kai's spiritual energy grew significantly. Not only did it become more resilient, but the range it could cover was also much larger than before. The consumption of pills was very fast because the quality of these pills was not high. If the quality was not high, the medicinal efficacy would not be ideal. If Yang Kai wanted to quickly restore his spiritual energy, he could only make up for it with quantity. Only the last bottle of mysterious grade pills sent by the Liu family lasted less than 2 days before it was completely consumed. No one had ever dared to cultivate their spiritual energy like Yang Kai, recklessly exhausting his spiritual energy and then crazily consuming pills to supplement it. If it were anyone else, they would have long since suffered a serious injury. If their spiritual energy wasn't in chaos, they would have become an idiot. How could they survive? But under the effect of the soul-warming lotus, Yang Kai didn't need to worry about such things. 10 days later, after consuming all the pills, Yang Kai felt that his spiritual energy had grown a lot. He tried to destroy the soul-seeking seal that Shanqing Luo had left in his body, but unfortunately he was still unable to shake it. Instead, he provoked the divine sense that the dragon lady had left in the soul-seeking seal, causing her to gasp and hallucinate, causing Yang Kai to become enraged. Sooner or later, he would strip her naked, hang her up, and give her a good beating. Yang Kai secretly swore in his heart. With a light knock, a knock came from outside. "Come in," Yang Kai shouted. The door was pushed open and Bai Luo, wearing a fiery red dress, her face enchanting and hot, giggling as she walked in. It was obvious that she had deliberately dressed up, and the choice of clothes she had chosen to imitate Shanqing Luo's style, giving her a hint of charm. Yang Kai was slightly startled. "How come it's you?" Since returning to the palace that day, Bai Luo had not appeared in front of Yang Kai, but from time to time, Yunli would put in a few good words for her, asking Yang Kai not to pursue the previous matter. Yang Kai had never imagined that today she would take the initiative to come looking for him. However, the current Bai Luo was no longer as arrogant and overbearing as before. When facing Yang Kai, she couldn't help feeling a bit nervous and depressed. "I came to see you," Bai Luo said softly, showing a rare tenderness as she timidly stared at Yang Kai. Yang Kai smiled. "If you still care about that matter, you don't need to worry, I won't trouble you." "You're not angry?" Bai Luo looked at him in surprise. "As long as you don't scheme against me again." "I promise I won't do that again, that day was just an accident." Bai Luo smiled tenderly, running over to Yang Kai and whispering, "If Master asks about what happened that day, my hands were itchy so I exchanged some pointers with Liu." Yang Kai naturally knew how to answer. Bai Luo giggled, her slender white palms patting her breasts as she took a deep breath. She had completely put down the big stone in her heart. Sincerely, she said, "You're really a good person, I was wrong about you before." Just as she finished praising him, she found that Yang Kai was staring at her breasts. Hurriedly blocking his gaze, she blushed and said, "Hey, don't look at them like that." Saying so, seemingly thinking of something, Bai Luo let go of her arms and deliberately puffed out her towering breasts, indifferently saying, Look, I'll apologize to you in any case, I won't lose anything." Her acting so carefree was a bit too much for Yang Kai to bear. Giggling, Bai Luo directly jumped onto the bed and came to stand behind Yang Kai. Half kneeling, she then stretched out her hands, straightened Yang Kai's head, and gently massaged it with her 10 fingers. "Why are you?" Yang Kai was surprised. "Every day at this time, isn't it elder sister Yunli who comes to help you relieve your fatigue? Today, I took on this task and originally wanted to apologize to you, but I didn't expect you to be so accommodating. This young lady rarely serves you, so I'll be grateful and enjoy it." Yang Kai couldn't help feeling stunned, only now realizing that Bai Luo really felt guilty about what had happened that day. Otherwise, she wouldn't have tried to please him like this. Since that day when Yunli helped Yang Kai massage, Yang Kai had become addicted to this and wanted to do it with her every day. Cultivating one's divine sense brought about exhaustion. Every time, it would be dispersed by those slender fingers, making one feel as if they were floating in the clouds. It was a comfortable feeling. Bai Luo must have inquired about this from the very beginning. Her technique wasn't as good as Yun Li's, but it was still quite diligent. After a long time, Bai Luo suddenly asked, "Is it very comfortable?" "It's all right," Yang Kai said honestly. "Only all right?" Bai Luo was quite shocked. "How do I compare to elder sister Yun Li?" "Not as good as her." "Oomph." Bai Luo snorted, her face filled with unwillingness. rolling her eyes as she grinned wickedly. Suddenly, a soft moan sounded in Yang Kai's ear, one that seemed to carry an endless charm and temptation. Immediately, from all directions, a burst of erotic moans rang out. Yang Kai opened his eyes and saw a series of enchanting young women wearing revealing clothing, their robes half undone, their jade-like bodies wrapped around him like water snakes. In an instant, Yang Kai's breathing became heavy and his entire body began to burn with lust. Realizing that something was wrong, Yang Kai quickly circulated his joyous unification art, causing Bai Luo, who was behind him, to let out a soft groan and suddenly collapse, her beautiful eyes blurring. The yin-yang joyous unification art seemed to be able to break through all kinds of seductive techniques. Last time, when Yang Kai had been affected by Shanqing Luo's aura, he had used the joyous unification art to escape from the illusion. This time, it really did dispel the illusion. "What are you doing?" Yang Kai turned his head and saw that Bai Luo's cheeks were flushed red and her beautiful eyes were watery. Obviously, she had suffered a backlash from using her beguiling technique. Fortunately, she had only just begun using her beguiling technique and didn't have any hostility towards Yang Kai, so the backlash was very slight, only affecting her state of mind and not injuring her. "Making you feel good?" Bai Luo gasped for breath, her whole body feeling weak and powerless as she stared at Yang Kai in amazement. "But what did you do? Why did I suffer a backlash?" "You cultivate a beguiling technique?" Yang Kai stared at her dumbfoundedly, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He was quite surprised that her secret art was actually the same as Shanqing Luo's. Bai Luo responded softly, her enchanting appearance and moans teasing Yang Kai's mind. This was a far more effective form of seduction than her beguiling technique. Yang Kai grinned wickedly. "You're finished. I just told you not to scheme against me, yet you're doing this again. It seems you haven't learned your lesson yet." Chapter 323. Grinning, Yang Kai directly pushed Bai Luo under his body, his pair of big hands unscrupulously covering her pair of plump breasts. Feeling a scorching heat and amazing elasticity, Yang Kai's whole body instantly ignited, feeling his blood boil and his lower abdomen heat up. Speaking of which, it had been a long, long time since the last time he had dual cultivated with Su Yan. During this time, he had experienced a variety of temptations, and although he had always been able to hold himself back at the last moment, over the years, a small spark had been buried deep within him. Now, Bai Luo using her beguiling technique on Yang Kai had undoubtedly ignited the spark. "Hey, you! What are you doing?" Bai Luo was shocked and quickly tried to push Yang Kai away, but after suffering the backlash of using her beguiling technique just now, she had no strength at all. Now that Yang Kai was kneading her, her tender body became even more limp, so how could she possibly push him away? Feeling a burning hot aura, Bai Luo's heart trembled and her mind was almost swallowed up by this hot aura. With a tearing sound, Bai Luo's clothes were torn apart and she suddenly felt a chill run down her spine as her red robes were torn apart, exposing more than half of her snow-white skin to the air. "You bastard!" Bai Luo ground her teeth and cursed, her eyes filled with both fear and confusion, clenching her hands into fists and pounding Yang Kai's shoulders. "Oh!" While she was pounding Bai Luo's chest, she suddenly felt a numbing sensation, as if an electric current was flowing through her body, causing Bai Luo's mouth to emit a strange sound. This caused her to feel even more embarrassed. She lowered her head and saw the hateful man kissing the red mark on her chest. That pair of big hands was also very dishonest, rubbing back and forth between her waist, back, cleavage and buttocks. Every time they rubbed, it would bring a wave of dizzying impact. "Don't," Bai Luo whispered softly, but the strength in her hands gradually weakened. It seemed that she was no longer willing to push this man away, and gradually, her whole body tensed up. He placed a finger in his mouth and sucked on it. A humming sound came from his mouth and he no longer resisted. On the contrary, her face was full of enjoyment and pleasure. Her beautiful eyes were blurred, and her snow-white skin was dripping with fragrant sweat. There was a faint layer of red light on it. She couldn't help but cooperate with Yang Kai, looking forward to more pleasure. Yang Kai was stunned. Yang Kai had only wanted to teach Bai Luo a lesson. Although teaching a woman such a lesson was a bit excessive, it didn't matter who he was dealing with. Since Bai Luo cultivated a beguiling technique, naturally she wasn't unfamiliar with the matters between men and women. This was a lesson she would never forget. Only then would she stop scheming against him in the future. Unexpectedly, this enchanting girl didn't resist for long. Not only did she compromise, but she was also quite cooperative. This was undoubtedly a piece of heartening news. Realizing this, Yang Kai no longer hesitated. As he tumbled, his clothes fell off. Just as he was about to take action, Bai Luo suddenly sobered up and hurriedly stopped Yang Kai, a look of panic filling her face as she said, "No, no, no, you can't do this. You're kidding." Yang Kai stared at her without blinking. After reaching this point, was he really going to hold back? "If you really can't bear it, I'll call elder sister Yunli over. If you really can't, Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing are also fine. They were all sent by Master to serve you. No matter what you do to them, they won't resist." Bai Luo said eagerly, a pleading look on her face. "How about it? I'll call all three of them in. No need to trouble yourself, it's you." Bai Luo's expression became sullen as she quietly glanced towards Yang Kai's proud dragon head and couldn't help crying out in alarm, seemingly having been greatly frightened. Suddenly, her face filled with shyness, avoiding Kai Yang's burning gaze, she mustered up her courage and whispered, "Do you want to try something else?" "What?" Yang Kai was stunned. This. Bai Luo grit her teeth and whispered softly, "That's what?" Yang Kai asked in confusion. Bai Luo was speechless and quickly pulled Yang Kai's ear, pulling his head down and whispering a few words into his ear, her white cheeks becoming more and more alluring as her beautiful eyes blurred. Yang Kai was stunned for a moment before suddenly reacting, causing Bai Luo to be completely stunned, asking in shock, "Is that really possible?" Bai Luo nodded gently. "How do you know?" Yang Kai was shocked, suddenly feeling as if in front of Bai Luo he was as pure as a piece of white paper. "I cultivate a seductive technique. All of this was taught to me by Master." What Yang Kai didn't know was that because Bai Luo cultivated a seductive technique, Xianxia Luo had specially assigned 2 young girls to assist her. It was precisely because she had spent so much time with these 2 young girls that Bai Luo had developed this special hobby. "Then do you want to?" Bai Luo saw Yang Kai standing there in a daze and couldn't help crying out, covering her face as she asked. Although she was usually carefree, in the end, she was still a young girl, so at this time, she couldn't help blushing. "Yes," Yang Kai said with great interest. "First of all, don't ruin my body, the rest is up to you." Bai Luo blushed as she added, flipping over and pressing Yang Kai under her body, smiling charmingly as she licked her lips and lowered her head. A hearty roar, followed by a burst of nasal moans, instantly rang out. Outside Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion, the beautiful woman Yunli, Ruo Yu, and Ruo Qing were sweeping the fallen leaves when the sound of light footsteps approached them. Yunli raised her head, only to see 2 unfamiliar women appear in front of her. There were very few strangers in the palace, so Yunli had never seen these 2 before, but after a little thought she knew who they were. They should be the 2 girls her master had brought back a few days ago, one named Qiu Yimeng and the other named Luo Xiaoman. They had been placed under house arrest in Yingxiang Pavilion after sealing their yuan qi. Probably because of their good performance, they had been allowed to walk around the palace for the past few days. They should be related to the Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion's young lord who was obsessed with cultivation. Thinking of this, Yunli greeted them with a smile on her face and said, "You 2 are Miss Qiu and Miss Luo, right?" Qiu Yimeng looked at the beautiful woman in front of her, a trace of surprise flashing across her eyes. She hadn't expected that any of the women in Xianxia Luo's palace would be so beautiful. Nodding, she asked, How should I address elder sister?" Yunli chuckled, "Young lady Qiu is too polite, just call me Yunli." The beautiful woman naturally knew that Qiu Yimeng's identity was extraordinary. Although she was now just a prisoner, she was still of noble birth, so how could she really call her elder sister and take advantage of her? Qiu Yimeng smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Yunli smiled and said, "Are you two here to see young Master Yang? I heard from the people in the palace that he lives here, so I came all the way here to discuss something with him. I don't know if it's convenient for him right now." Right now. Yunli glanced back at the second floor of Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion and chuckled. It should be fine. Young Master Yang takes a break around this time every day. Rest? Qiu Yimeng was surprised. Is he usually very busy? Since young Master Yang arrived here, he has been cultivating all the time. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help smiling bitterly. Although she and Luo Xiaoman were both diligent in their cultivation, they didn't spend all their time cultivating. Now that they heard that Yang Kai hadn't relaxed even after arriving here, they couldn't help admiring his perseverance. "Come with me, since you are young Master Yang's old friends, he should be willing to meet you." Yunli chuckled, putting down the broom in her hand and saying a few words to Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing before leading Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman inside. Looking around at the surrounding environment, Qiu Yimeng's expression became even more bitter while Luo Xiaoman angrily whispered in Qiu Yimeng's ear, "That smelly brat's living environment is so good, there are so many flowers and plants here, and the view is quite broad." On the contrary, the fragrance pavilion where the two of them lived, although it had the word fragrant in its name, didn't even have a single flower or plant. Its location was also quite remote and gloomy, almost like a prison cell. Compared to Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion in front of them, it was on a completely different level. He even has a single loft and 3 maids to serve him. The more Luo Xiaoman spoke, the angrier she became. She and Qiu Yimeng were both under house arrest, so how could Yang Kai be treated so well? In terms of status, the two of them were much higher than him. Wow, there's even a bath. After entering Tranquil Phoenix Pavilion, Luo Xiaoman became more and more restless, staring at the huge bath enviously, pitifully saying, "Elder Sister Qiu, I really want to take a bath here. After coming here, I haven't had a chance to take a bath, I'm itching to death." Hearing her say this, even Qiu Yimeng felt uncomfortable and couldn't help calling out softly, "Xiaoman. Smelly brat." Luo Xiaoman muttered discontentedly. Yunli, who was leading the way, suddenly turned around and smiled. "Young Master Yang is actually a good person. I'm afraid the two of you have some kind of misunderstanding about him. I'll talk to him later, he should allow you to take a bath here." "I don't want to, what if he's too lecherous?" Luo Xiaoman exclaimed. Yunli smiled and said, "That won't happen, young Master Yang isn't interested in women." Saying so, her face blushed slightly. "Me, Ruo Yu and Ruo Qing were sent by Master to serve young Master, but after so many days, young Master has been very polite to us and has never crossed the line, although he could have done so you don't have to worry." "Is he really that good?" Qiu Yimeng's beautiful eyes flashed a strange light, as if she hadn't expected that Yang Kai would be so indifferent in the face of such beauty, instead spending all his time cultivating. This young man really did have some skill. At the very least, his perseverance and aptitude were quite good. If she could win him over to the Qiu family and provide him with cultivation resources, he would likely have great achievements in the future. Thinking about this, Qiu Yimeng smiled wryly. She didn't know when she would regain her freedom, so it was undoubtedly too early to think about such things. However, if she could really regain her freedom, she would strive to win him over to the Qiu family. Such a young man was rare. Qiu Yimeng secretly made up her mind. As the group chatted, they soon arrived at the second floor. Yunli whispered, "Young Master Yang is inside, please wait a moment while I inform him." "Thank you for your trouble." Qiu Yimeng nodded lightly. Chapter 324. Yunli smiled faintly and stepped forward, reaching out her jade white hand, but just as she was about to knock on the door, there was a sudden movement inside. This movement was strange, and the sound was not soft either. It seemed like a man was roaring, and a woman was sobbing. However, the man's voice was clear, and the woman's voice was not clear, as if her mouth was blocked by something. When the sound reached the ears of the 3 women outside, all of them were stunned. But soon, the beautiful woman Yunli's white neck turned pink. Her raised hand trembled slightly, and her eyes became misty. She withdrew her hand as if she had been electrocuted. Biting her red lips, she stood there, not knowing what to do. Qiu Yimeng also froze for a moment, but immediately seemed to remember something, her face suddenly turning red as she ground her teeth and cursed, "Bastard!" Luo Xiaoman blinked her big eyes and listened carefully, her beautiful brow wrinkling slightly as she asked, "Elder Sister Qiu, what's that sound?" Qiu Yimeng was caught off guard by this question and didn't know how to answer for a moment. Inside there's probably someone cultivating. Casually speaking, Qiu Yimeng blushed and couldn't continue. Luo Xiaoman looked at her suspiciously, then turned to Yunli and whispered, "Cultivating? Why does it feel like we're in a fight? Why are you blushing?" "Nothing." Qiu Yimeng lied through her teeth, feeling her face burn like it was on fire. At that moment, the movement inside suddenly became louder and more violent. The man's roar and the woman's muffled groan mixed together, converging into a violent shockwave that reached the ears of the three women. This sound seemed to contain some kind of magical power, causing their legs to soften and their delicate bodies to flush red. Luo Xiaoman exclaimed, her face filled with shock. "Elder Sister Qiu, did that bastard man—" "What?" Qiu Yimeng's eyes flashed, her heart a mess. "Did he kill the woman inside?" Luo Xiaoman exclaimed, her beautiful eyes trembling violently as she softly pleaded, "Elder Sister Qiu, let's go, I feel so uncomfortable. What's wrong?" Qiu Yimeng was startled and quickly asked. Luo Xiaoman hesitated for a moment before whispering, "I need to go to the bathroom, let's go." Qiu Yimeng's face was so red it was almost bleeding. He also felt that this was not a good place to stay. Just as he was about to say goodbye to Yunli and leave, the door in front of him suddenly opened. Immediately after, an enchanting young woman appeared in front of the three of them. They all looked at each other with extremely red faces. The enchanting girl's hair was messy, and her clothes were untidy. It was almost snow-white, but there was a dark red halo on it. It was holding a few pieces of clothing in its hands, and it had a panicked expression on its face. Looking down her tender white body, Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman clearly saw 5 finger marks all over her body, especially on the 2 white bunnies on her chest. The deep 5 finger marks were clearly visible, as if they had been branded into her body, a shocking sight to behold. Between her slender and fair legs, a sparkling and translucent thread slid down her thighs. At the corner of her mouth, there was a trace of milky white liquid. Bai Luo was taken aback and stared blankly at the 3 women in front of her, grit her teeth, blushed, and rushed past them, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Although she wasn't dressed properly. But since all the people in the palace were women, she didn't have anything to hide. On the other hand, in front of Yang Kai, she didn't want to stay a moment longer. After Bai Luo left, the 3 women were still immersed in a strange silence. After a while, Luo Xiaoman suddenly recovered and asked softly, "Elder Sister Qiu, what did that girl eat?" Qiu Yimeng's face was also filled with confusion as she slowly shook her head. "What did she eat? Why didn't she wipe it clean?" Yunli slowly turned around, her voice trembling slightly, not daring to look at Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman, simply asking, "2 young ladies, do you still want to see young Master Yang?" Qiu Yimeng took a deep breath and nodded slightly. Since they had already come here, they couldn't just turn around and go back. Yunli nodded before standing at the door and calling out, "Young Master, young Lady Qiu and young Lady Luo have come, they want to see you. Come in." Yunli stared blankly for a moment before turning to Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman and saying, "2 young ladies, please." Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman both straightened their faces and stepped inside. After they entered the room, Yunli ran downstairs as if she was fleeing. Inside the room, Yang Kai sat boldly in an armchair inlaid with gold and jade, his robes neat and tidy, smiling as he looked at the 2 girls who walked in. Meeting his eyes, Qiu Yimeng couldn't help recalling the scene just now, her pretty face blushing slightly as she quickly averted her gaze. Luo Xiaoman followed behind Qiu Yimeng timidly, gritting her teeth as she glared at Yang Kai. Yang Kai didn't care and just stared at them. Being stared at by this unscrupulous gaze, Qiu Yimeng actually forgot what she had come here to do and stood there dumbfounded. After a moment of silence, the sound of footsteps came from downstairs again, and a moment later, Bai Luo returned in her fiery red robes. At this moment, she had already put on her robes, and although her cheeks were still flushed, she no longer had the previous embarrassment and had instead regained her usual enchanting appearance. Without any scruples about Qiu Yimeng and Luo Xiaoman inside the room, Bai Luo shouted to Yang Kai, "Hey you bastard, I'm warning you, I just wanted to experience what it's like to be a man, I didn't want to have anything to do with you. Today's matter, you don't owe me anything and I don't owe you anything, so don't bother this young lady in the future, do you understand?" Yang Kai was stunned for a moment before nodding with a wry smile, "Understood." Bai Luo waved her small fists angrily and declared, "If you dare to harass me, this young lady will teach you a lesson." Seeing Bai Luo so disdainful of Yang Kai, Luo Xiaoman couldn't help feeling a sense of mutual hatred, smiling towards her, seemingly hoping that Bai Luo would scold Yang Kai a few more times to vent her anger. However, Bai Luo only said a few words before turning around and leaving. "Elder sister." Luo Xiaoman couldn't stand it anymore and quickly called out, "What's wrong?" Bai Luo looked at Luo Xiaoman with a smile. Bai Luo Xiaoman's eyes wandered between her two huge peaks. "You didn't wipe your mouth clean after eating, there's still." Luo Xiaoman reminded her with a smile, reaching out and touching the corner of her mouth. "Ah!" Bai Luo was stunned, reaching out and wiping her mouth, discovering that it really was the case. Glaring at Yang Kai bitterly, she then turned to Luo Xiaoman and said, "Thank you, I'll find you another day to play." Luo Xiaoman responded happily. Unexpectedly. The women in this palace are quite easy to talk to. Qiu Yimeng observed from the side. She felt like something was wrong, but couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, so she frowned and thought hard. However, nothing came to mind. Bai Luo left like a whirlwind. After being interrupted by Bai Luo, Qiu Yimeng's mood stabilized and she smiled towards Yang Kai. "I didn't see it. You seem to be living quite comfortably here, the environment is so good, and there are so many beautiful women to serve you, I'm sure you're enjoying yourself quite a bit, right?" Yang Kai grinned meaningfully as he stared at Qiu Yimeng, raising his brow. "First young lady Qiu didn't come to find me today to envy my life, right? If you have something to say, don't beat around the bush, just say it directly. I don't like women playing games in front of me." Qiu Yimeng was stunned for a moment before nodding with a smile. "Let's get straight to the point. It's like this. I want you to help the two of us leave here." Sure enough. Yang Kai's expression remained calm as he said lightly, "Do you think I'm the kind of person who would do such a thing?" Qiu Yimeng smiled lightly, "At the very least, your strength isn't sealed. If you don't try, how will you know?" Sighing faintly she said, "You're different from me and Xiaoman and I have our Yuan Qi sealed, so we can't fight. Are you willing to stay here for the rest of your life?" Saying so, Qiu Yimeng smiled. You don't have to worry about food and clothing here, you have the beguiling demon queen as your backer, you don't have to worry about cultivation resources, and you have beautiful women to serve you. I'm afraid no man would be willing to leave here. Don't try to provoke me." Yang Kai sneered. "Do you think it'll work?" Qiu Yimeng frowned. Perceiving Yang Kai's stubbornness, she smiled bitterly. "Fine, I'll be frank. Tell me your conditions. What do you want me to do in order to help me and Xiaoman leave?" "Why do you think I can let you leave?" Yang Kai frowned, a look of displeasure appearing on his face. This woman was too self-righteous. "Because your relationship with the beguiling demon queen is not ordinary. As long as you're willing to put in a few good words in front of her, Xiaoman and I aren't of much value to her, so what use is there for her to detain us here? My Qiu family and Purple Fern Valley can use materials to make up for her losses." Seeing Yang Kai contemplating, Qiu Yimeng hurriedly said, "You just need to pass on a message. Xiaoman and I really can't see her, otherwise we wouldn't have come to ask you for help." "I can't see her either." Yang Kai coldly snorted. "How is that possible? She was so good to you before." Qiu Yimeng said with a look of distrust. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. I'm not afraid to tell you, Shanqing Luo is not in Fragrance City right now. She seems to have gone to the Thunderbolt Beast King's territory with some of the city's masters. Yang Kai knew this news because when he was fighting with Liu that day, he had inadvertently overheard some of the Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters talking about it. Although he had fought with Liu that day, Yang Kai was still able to keep his eyes and ears open. Qiu Yimeng exclaimed, her beautiful eyes flashing with excitement and eagerness as she hurriedly asked, "Since she's not here, why don't you leave? Do you really want to stay here for the rest of your life?" "Where can I go?" Yang Kai stared at her coldly, his eyes filled with disgust and disgust. "Go." Qiu Yimeng was suddenly at a loss for words. That's right, where could he go? High Heaven Pavilion was probably empty right now. His sect elders, fellow brother, sister, senior sister, all of them were gone, so where could he go? It seemed he had nowhere to go. Yang Kai's words immediately made Qiu Yimeng realize his dilemma. What's more, what Qiu Yimeng didn't know was that Yang Kai still had Shanqing Luo's soul-seeking seal in his body. With this thing, even if Yang Kai fled to the ends of the earth, Shanqing Luo would still be able to find him, so it was better to save his energy and stay here. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.